the Ghosts of Harrenhal. My name's Simon.
And I'm Mackelly.
Thank you for joining us for episode 142 of our chapter-by-chapter book review of A Song of Ice and Fire by George Martin. Today we'll be discussing chapter 68 of A Clash of Kings, that's Jon 8.
And as always, we're going to chat about the chapter, we're going to try not to spoil any future plot points for you, and hopefully we'll provide you some entertainment along the way.
We will summarise what happened, discuss our thoughts on it, provide some useful background, compare it to the television show, indulge in a little pedantry, and cover some relevant news and listener correspondence. Be sure to check out the show notes, they'll help you in particular if you're not reading along with us. How are you, Mackelly?
I'm doing all right. We've had some technical difficulties where we've switched software, or our video software, that we could see each other, and it has not gone well.
It's not gone well. It's been a pain, but...
We'll make it work. Well, by this time next year, it'll be we'll have all the kinks worked out.
Yeah.
We've
had quite the day, though.
Fine. We've had quite the day, you and me.
Yes, we promised you an interview with Elio Garcia and Linda Antonsen, and we did that this afternoon, and it was incredibly exciting and fun, and we're really looking forward to sharing that one with you. So
it really was so much fun.
It really was. Yeah,
there was times when they were talking, I was like, I can't believe that the things that they're telling us. This is so fantastic.
I mean, it was like, there's a section. We did a section of spoilers at the end that we want people to not listen to if they are trying to stay spoiler free. But it was like you were hearing it from the source. It was like, I think this is what's going to happen.
I was thinking that same thing. They just had so much amazing insight, and they just were so willing to share it all with us. It was,
I know,
really cool.
It was terrific.
Really cool.
So I didn't mention it during the interview with them, but I've got a terrible bad back. I'm doing a fitness challenge at work, and it involves doing burpees. Do you know what a burpee is?
I do.
Let me describe it for those who don't. It's like a push-up where you then jump up in the air and sort of hop and then fall back into a push-up position, do another push-up, and pop up. So you do this multiple times. Well, theoretically, you do it multiple times. So me and a guy at work have to do these burpees, and I've hurt my back and I just can't do them. I mean, I can do the push-up, but the standing up and the hop, and the sort of popping up just can't be done. But he was saying that when he does it, it's kind of like in stages. He sort of does the push-up and then he hauls himself up and then he stands there for a second catching his breath and then he does a jump.
Something
and
like
I said,
that.
I said, well, we both watched videos to see how you're supposed to do it. And I said, see that smooth continuous motion? I said, that's CGI right there. That's not the real. There's no way a human can do what they're doing.
But you're so spry.
I'm not at the moment. Oh.
You'll be back. You'll be back in your spry shape in no time. Just got to get that back healed up. You see on the sheets here, I have Molly's green dream. So the other day, I came downstairs in the morning to take Molly to school, and she has a tendency to want to tell you about her dreams. And first of all, she knows that there's very few things that Stacy tolerates less than someone that wants to tell her a dream. So she never goes to her with her dreams. Yes. She comes to me with them. So she was telling me her dream, and it basically went like this. So she was working on some project or something, and I came into the dining room, and I gave her an Arby's sandwich. And she was like, "Oh, thanks, Dad." And then I turned around and gave Ethan a steak dinner with like filet and baked potato. It reminded me of that dream that Jojen had when he said that Bran and the Freys were going to get different meals.
The Freys would like theirs more.
And I was like, I feel like your subconscious is trying to tell you that you think that I favor your brother over you.
Just listen back to previous episodes, Molly. You'll get the truth. I'm not saying which way the truth is, but you can piece it together from the evidence here.
Right. Got 141 other episodes. Maybe
piece
it together. No, I love both of them equally, of course.
But Elio and Linda said they listened to an episode but they listened to episode 1
Oof.
of our podcast, and both of us pulled the same face. We're like, oh no.
Of all the ones. That's the thing. Sometimes I think about, like, should we go back and redo those early ones when we were just so stiff and trying to figure out how all this works? And because people often start at 1. So how many people listen to 1 and like, oof, those guys are lame.
Those guys. Well, Elio for 1.
We actually had a review that said, just give these guys a few episodes and let them hit their stride.
That's right. Key information right there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Let's get down to business then. How did we leave Jon Snow? Last we saw of Jon, which was a whopping 15 chapters ago,
wow.
He was seeing Mance Rayder's wildling army through the eyes of his direwolf Ghost. Ghost was then attacked by an eagle and hurt. Qhorin had seen enough and wanted to head back down the Skirling Pass to bring the intel to Lord Commander Mormont. The brave Squire Dalbridge stayed behind to slow their pursuers. Mackelly, why don't we give them a summary of this one?
I think we can do that. Qhorin Halfhand orders a fire, so Jon knows that the end is near. And Jon wonders if Ghost, normally so silent, will howl for Jon. Will Ghost's siblings? The party is down to just the 2 of them. Squire Dalbridge tried to hold off their pursuers, but a blast from a horn proved that he brought them scant minutes. Qhorin sends Ebben on to Mormont at the Fist of the First Men, taking Ebben's horse and Dalbridge's, while the remainder draw off the pursuit.
Ebben suggested that Jon go instead, but Qhorin has a plan for Jon. Their progress is continually monitored by an eagle, and so they know they are tracked. For days the 3 of them, Stonesnake being the 3rd, made progress through the pass, occasionally attempting to obscure their tracks, but with the eagle a constant presence it hardly seems worth it. An attack by a shadowcat is fought off, but one of their horses breaks a leg. Ghosts get to eat some real meat that night, and the men fortify their porridge with horse blood.
Ugh. Talk to Danny about that, I guess.
Yeah.
With 3 men and 2 horses, Stonesnake offers to lay down his own life to slow their pursuers. But Qhorin thinks that Stonesnake, above all the men in the Night's Watch, might be able to escape the Frostfangs on foot and alone. He can go over mountains that the horses would have to circle. He's tasked with reporting all that was seen to Mormont, with the message, "The old powers are waking. You'll face giants, wargs, and worse." As Stonesnake leaves, Jon can't see him having any chance of survival.
From this point, the nights get colder. Ghost is sometimes absent, but Jon can always sense his nearness. Across the fire, Qhorin asks if Jon's sword is sharp. They then retake their vows together. Jon hopes they'll provide him the strength to die bravely. Qhorin reveals his plan. Jon is to yield, gain the wildlings' trust, do whatever's asked of him, even to swear opposing vows, but secretly hold to his Night's Watch vows, even if he has to break them to do so. Jon's honour is less important. He must find out what Mance was searching for in the Frostfangs, if he found it, and what he plans to do with it.
Jon protests, but Qhorin insists. Jon begs that Qhorin at least tell Mormont the truth, and Qhorin ruefully promises to do so the next time he sees the Lord Commander. Jon rebuilds the fire, and the 2 mount up and backtrack. Qhorin leads them to and through a waterfall beyond which is a cave and a tunnel through a mountain. He hopes the fire will fool the wildlings. They sleep in the cave and next day head through the tunnel. Jon is hopeful since the eagle can't spy them inside the mountain.
But as they come out the other side, the eagle is sitting in a tree waiting for them. Qhorin decides the mouth of the tunnel is the place for their last stand. 14 wildlings and 8 dogs face them down. They're led by Rattleshirt. He threatens Qhorin, but backs down from single combat. They produce Ebben's head to the dismay of Qhorin and Jon. After more taunting, Rattleshirt orders arrows fired at them. Jon then yields.
Qhorin plays his part, saying that bastard blood is craven. Rattleshirt has no need of cravens, but Ygritte speaks up on Jon's behalf. The eagle squawks as if in disagreement. Ygritte says the bird hates Jon. The bird was a man before Jon killed him. There's more debate, but most of the party want to give Jon a chance to prove himself. The test is obvious. Rid them of Qhorin Halfhand. Qhorin attacks first, and Jon is outmatched, desperately defending himself against a flurry of blows. And, of course, this is Qhorin's weaker hand. There appears to be only one winner until Ghost takes a bite out of Qhorin's leg, allowing Jon a window to slit his throat.
Rattleshirt is still sceptical, but the rest of the party are ready to accept Jon. This level of debate and democratic rule is alien to Jon. The group play dice for Qhorin's equipment. Ygritte gets his cloak. They burn his body. Jon asks if they will return the way they've come, but Ygritte tells him that there's nobody there anymore. The main host has headed down the Milkwater and are marching on the wall.
That damn eagle!
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's got an axe to grind.
I guess. Yeah, he sure does.
As do I when we get to pedantry.
another good pedantry episode.
It's not good pedantry, it's just pedantry. I'm just being pedantic, but you'll see.
All right.
So Qhorin's plans overall are not really working out. Squire Dalbridge was supposed to hold the wildling pursuers back for a length of time, which he patently failed to do. Basically, as soon as they arrived on him, he blew his horn and was done. They're here! Dalbridge out!
Now, of course, Squire Dalbridge was left behind to defend the pass because he was the best shooter. He was the best with the bow and arrow. So now they've lost their best shooter as well. So
Ebben was to ride ahead to get word to Mormont, and that ended obviously abruptly. Unless he's still going without his head.
Right.
Stonesnake, they did not capture, as far as we can see, but, I mean, he is on foot, and Jon doesn't think he has a chance of getting out anyway, even if he's not pursued and brought down by wildlings.
Right.
And Qhorin himself is now dead. I mean, like, obviously that brings pretty much an end to Qhorin's plans, but, and Jon is captured or aligned with the wildlings, depending on how you look at it. Is any intel from this mission actually going to reach the Night's Watch, or has it all been in vain?
That is the question. It's pretty much up to Jon or possibly Stonesnake at this point. I mean, maybe Stonesnake really can make it through the Frostfangs alone and afoot, but seems very possible that nothing from this is going to make it back to Mormont.
I will say, just in passing, actually, I often think they're a little inconsistent with how cold it is in the north, because it's pretty cold, right?
Right.
It's pretty cold. I mean, the wall is predominantly ice. If there was like a prolonged period of time where it was above freezing, the wall would melt.
Right. It does sweat, like it does.
It sweats, right?
Rivers
but I mean, if
do run down it, but then
right. But if there was a 4-month, 90-degree everyday summer, the wall would be a fraction of its current height.
Right, yes.
Right.
I'm with you.
But, so they're way north of the wall, so it should be colder.
Yeah, they're in the mountains. Right.
They're complaining that it's cold. But the waterfall was still running.
Yes. I know what you're saying, yes.
Well, I mean, I'm not calling it up as pedantry, but it just sort of seems a little bit inconsistent. If water is running, I believe that a ranger of the Night's Watch could get out of those mountains on foot.
Okay, yeah, I see what you're saying.
If it's 30 degrees below zero, yeah, maybe not. But if it's warm enough that water can run, and he's an experienced tracker and ranger, I think he can do it.
Yeah, I see that. Sure. Yeah, I mean, food might become an issue, but if he comes across a shadow cat or something, certainly there'll be plenty of supply of water.
Right. Yeah.
So, yeah. So Jon, at the opening of the chapter, Jon wonders if Ghost and, as he puts it, Bran's wolf and the rest of the wolves will howl for him when he dies, like they howled for Bran when Bran fell. And of course he calls Summer Bran's wolf because he left for Castle Black before Bran woke and named his wolf Summer. So he has no idea what the name of Bran's wolf is.
Oh, that's a good point, actually. I'd never thought of that. So he'll always refer to it as Bran's wolf, not as Summer. And if he ever does, we will haul him up in pedantry.
That's right, we sure will. We'll be keeping an eye on that, Jon. Just like that eagle kept an eye on you. So that eagle's been following them since they found Ghost injured apparently by that eagle. So I guess maybe Warg recognizes Warg, because
You're right.
Ygritte
Right.
at the end of this chapter implies very heavily that this eagle belonged to a man who was a warg, and that was the man that Jon killed when he came across Ygritte. So,
Right.
Yeah, maybe
But
game recognizes game, warg recognizes
Mhm.
warg.
I wonder though. It's almost touching on the pedantry I was going to bring up. Is do the animals actually want to be warged? I mean, it feels to me like from what we've heard about Summer and Bran's connection that Summer sort of resents Bran being in there a little bit. Doesn't actually want him in there. If Bran were to be killed, I'm sure Summer would howl and complain. But he is fond. Yeah, I mean, Summer defended it. Yeah, Summer loves Bran, so maybe all warged creatures love their warg.
Yeah, maybe that's there's some sort of spiritual connection there.
Yeah. So when the Halfhand sends Ebben, he gives him 2 horses because Dalbridge's horse was available. So Ebben had the best chance of getting out, which we know by the end of the chapter he didn't.
Right.
Ebben argues that he should send Jon instead, which I wondered why he might do that. I mean, on the one hand, Jon's younger, and so maybe it was just a matter of let the young guy go. I'm a more seasoned fighter kind of thing.
Yeah, I wondered it too. I thought there was 2 possible reasons. Either, like you said, giving Jon the gift of a better chance to make it home alive, because he said he's half a boy or something like that, and Qhorin said he's a brother of the Night's Watch. Or the other possibility is that he had an idea, he being Ebben, had an idea of what Qhorin might do if they were caught, and wanted to spare Jon the traitorous fate.
Yeah. One last one, actually. I wonder if Jon was kind of the eyewitness to Mance's party and nobody else was. I mean, obviously Jon, strictly speaking, wasn't. He saw it through Ghost's eyes, but he's the only one to have actually seen it. The others are getting it secondhand. If Mormont had any further questions, Ebben would only know what he's heard from Jon.
Yes, that's true. That's a good point.
Yeah.
I actually was wondering, what if Jon went on Ebben's mission? Would he suffer the same fate as Ebben? Could Qhorin have, before Jon left, could Qhorin have said, I want you to yield if you get caught? And would Jon have listened if he's out there alone and gets caught?
Yeah.
And could Ygritte have kept Jon alive like she did in this, by the end of the chapter?
Without Qhorin as a human sacrifice.
Yes, right. It'd certainly be easier to sell the story that Jon broke away from his brothers to defect to the wildlings if he's out there alone and going in the wrong direction from the rest.
Yeah. At the goodbye to Ebben is when the Halfhand says, I have a different plan for Jon. So he's already hatched this plan. And I think some of it depends on... there's 2 factors it depends on. One is the fact that he is a Stark of Winterfell. I think that matters because he's a bastard as well. The sense that he might turn on the Night's Watch is sort of like just implicit in all that. And secondly, I think is his sparing Ygritte. That he thought that might come back to help him, which of course it does. She argues for him.
I agree with that as well. I had the same thought. And that's so. Then they run into the situation where Stonesnake is sent solo to scale the mountains and cliffs and make it back to Mormont. And of course, Qhorin says, you among all of the brothers of the Night's Watch are singularly possessed of the ability to possibly actually make it back alive. And so Stonesnake is the one that Jon scaled the mountain with to get the jump on Ygritte and her companion. So that's his thing is climbing. So I guess that's why Qhorin sent him on this particular mission of trying to make it alone. And I was thinking about the flow of this chapter, and it kind of has a popular theme in the mission stories. The group whittled down as the stakes get higher and the force tightens its grip, like Like the movie Predator with Arnold Schwarzenegger, it started off with like a band of brothers, and it ended up, one by one they were all killed until it ended up with just Arnold Schwarzenegger versus the alien.
Do you have a cultural reference for our younger listeners?
Yes. Well, also, younger listeners. I was going to say, Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship has kind of a similar concept. And Star Wars has kind of a similar concept, but, and then, the war horn alerts that Dalbridge has fallen, and Ebben and Stonesnake are sent on highly risky solo missions, and then they discover that Ebben was caught and killed, and it reveals to Jon and Qhorin what's going to happen to them now that they're caught, which ramps up the tension. And then, of course, it ends with the mentor sacrificing himself for the mission, and so that the protege can survive, a la Obi-Wan at the end of A New Hope. I hope I didn't just spoil that for people who haven't seen the first Star Wars movie.
We'll go back and edit the word "spoiler alert" in there.
Right. You see what I'm saying? It's kind of like that whole mission plot there.
Yes, now that you've laid it all out, I see it, and I think you can take the words Mackelly's tinfoil hat out of the notes, but
that is a separate theory. That is
no way. Go on.
I had to think what that meant for a second, but I recall what I meant when I wrote that. It was something I was thinking about, and I had seen it since I started thinking about it. I went and did some research online, and of course, as with anything that's as old as A Song of Ice and Fire, I'm not the first to have such thoughts, but I wondered about the dynamic between Jon and Qhorin. They're kind of a dynamic duo, but who is or who was Qhorin? So you've got this young, idealistic Stark bastard raised in Winterfell under the guidance of Eddard Stark, and then you've got this senior ranger whose name happens to be Qhorin. Okay, now, there's only one other character named Qhorin in the histories of A Song of Ice and Fire that I'm aware of and that's been revealed to us thus far, and he was an Ironborn king. Now, we don't know much about Qhorin Halfhand, other than he mentioned to Jon about this waterfall. He mentioned that when he was about Jon's age, a brother mentioned, this waterfall. So we know he's been in the Night's Watch since he was about in his mid-teens or thereabouts. So the speculation on the internet, which I'm going to kind of break down here, is could Qhorin possibly be Ironborn? So you've got the name Qhorin. There's an Ironborn king named Qhorin. Could be totally coincidental.
Yeah, but go on.
You've got his hard, callous, do what
Ironborn
needs to be
demeanor.
Done.
Yes.
Ironborn mentality. Could be an Ironborn mentality. Could be the fact that he has spent his whole life in the Night's Watch, which would also probably breed similar personality traits. Okay, but now we've got his lack of fingers. And that adds a little bit of support to the possibility of Qhorin being... here's why. I can see your confusion about that. What the fingers have to do with anything. So we know the story. Qhorin lost his fingers when he caught a wildling's axe, and then he used this bloody stump he shoved it in the wildling's face, I think, and blinded him while he killed him. But many an Ironborn has lost their fingers in what's known as the finger dance, which is where you throw an axe at each other, and you have to either catch the axe or jump over the axe. And it's called the finger dance because of the frequency of lost fingers while doing playing the little axe tossing game here.
Yes.
So
yes.
I'm not saying that Qhorin's story is a fable and really he lost it playing the finger dance, but it's just a bit of a coincidence that leads you to pondering, could Qhorin possibly be Ironborn at his, in his descent?
That's the payoff. That's what we were headed towards. That he might be lying about his backstory.
Well, we don't have a backstory.
Well,
that. Yeah, that could be legend. It could be
right.
Like there was the story that that Robb Stark was warged. Is a warg, and he has giants in his army and stuff, which is just fable. So
Right.
anyway, I wondered about Qhorin possibly being Ironborn. We don't know, and of course, maybe we'll find out. Seems unlikely now that he's gone, but you never know.
I think that's very interesting. And it's, of course, the kind of fable that the Night's Watch would put out to sort of like give him a cachet north of the wall.
He shows up with only one hand, and they're like, "What happened there?" Yeah. He's like, "Oh, yeah, my buddy threw me an axe, and I didn't catch it right." And they're like, "No.
I was dancing with my buddy." Let's change that story.
That's the story we're sticking with here. So that was my. That's what I meant by my tinfoil hat here. Just
yeah, honestly, it's so low level, Mackelly, that I don't think you need the tinfoil hat for it. I think you need the tinfoil hat for the big, uber conspiracies. That Qhorin might have been economical with his backstory is neither here nor there. So Qhorin wants to get word, and this is through Stonesnake. He wants to send word to Mormont. Although I would imagine he would have said the same thing to both Ebben and Stonesnake. To be honest, I mean, you sent them both in the same direction. Right. Different messages, yes, really.
You think you both get the same message.
That the old powers are awaking. Wargs, giants, the trees have eyes once more. And he also wants news that Mance is excavating to something. We don't know what it is still, but he wants that information to reach Mormont. So he clearly is beginning to sense the stirring of supernatural things north of the wall. Yeah,
and as you were talking and I was thinking about it, I thought, wow, he's really putting a lot of stock in Jon's dream, because he based it all on Jon's dream. But there's been some evidence that Jon was right since then, because there's wildlings pursuing them. The wildlings would have had no idea they were there if that eagle hadn't have had some sort of special warg-type power.
Yeah,
and,
although the presence of Ygritte in the hunting party does lend a sort of like
about Ygritte.
a mundane sort of like overlay to this. She rode back and said, "We should go get those guys."
Yes, right. That's true. That is true.
So he checks that Jon's sword is sharp. Asks Jon if his sword is sharp. So he's definitely foreseeing his own end here.
Yeah, and he says it twice before they meet with the wildlings. And, the first time reader and Jon think that it's because he wants... Simon's got his hand up too. Thinks it's because Qhorin wants to make sure that Jon's sword is sharp for the battle with the wildlings. But really, of course, we discover that he wants to make sure that Jon's sword is sharp to make for a quick, painless death as possible. And it's not until the third time that Qhorin says it as he's dying that you remember, oh, right, he kept asking, is your sword sharp?
And also, I think not just, I don't think Qhorin, I believe in Qhorin's backstory enough to believe that he's pretty tough and he could take a death at the hand of a blunt sword. But he probably knows that he's going to be better than Jon in the fight, and so he needs Jon to take whatever opportunity he gives him and kill him in one fell swoop. So that's probably what he was caring about more.
That's a good point.
So the scene between the two of them the night before, where they reiterate their vows. The Night's Watch vows are always powerful. It gives you it stirs the emotions when you hear the Night's Watch vows. Obviously, some of it is to remind Jon that there's nothing preventing this subterfuge, that the vows are overarching. The vow is to protect the kingdom, to protect from what's north of the wall.
Yes.
And if you have to do things which you feel are opposed to that vow, that's neither here nor there. Your personal choice is not a factor here. You have to do everything you can to maintain the spirit of your vow, even breaking the letter of it.
Yep.
Yeah, but then the second aspect of it, I think, is a reminder not to get lost in the ruse, because if he does this, I mean, we don't know where Jon's story is going to go from here, but he's now amongst the wildlings, apparently as a traitor to the Night's Watch. Well, when you embed like this, you can forget which side you're on.
Yes,
your loyalties can become torn. And so just that one last reminder, this is what you're doing this for.
Yeah, and I thought also that he used the vow to take Jon down a path to accept the mission.
Right.
You know, as he starts out, uses the vow as reaffirmation of Jon's commitment to the Night's Watch, and then reminds him of the dire consequences of the wall falling when he says, if the wall falls, all the fires go out. Then he drops the bomb and says, oh, and by the way, you're going to yield. Yeah. And of course, Jon balks. And then Qhorin uses the recently recited vow as a reminder that he's sworn to do whatever's necessary to both do what's best for the Night's Watch and protect the realm. And I think his line is like, or the line in the vow is like, I pledge my life and honor to the Night's Watch. And Qhorin says something like, our honor means no more than our lives if the realm is safe. And in this case, his life means more than his honor. You're going to pretend to be a traitor, which will damage your honor, but we need you alive because you've got a mission you have to accomplish.
Yeah. And of course, Jon, of course, doesn't see all this. His reaction is, please tell Mormont that I'm doing this on orders, because he cares about his honor. He cares about the way he's perceived too much.
Yes. And of course, Qhorin's answer is that he promises that he will the next time he sees the Lord Commander, which Qhorin knows at this point will be possibly in some afterlife situation.
Quite, yes. Yeah. So Qhorin does, as you mentioned, Qhorin says that, the fires will go out across the kingdom if the wall falls. Obviously, I don't think he can be that afraid of the wildlings unless he's afraid of what Mance Rayder might be digging up. I don't think he's that afraid of the wildlings as a force. I mean, even 250,000 wildlings couldn't bring the wall down. They could scale it, but they wouldn't bring it down.
Right. And even if somehow 250,000 wildlings got onto the other side of the wall, that wouldn't be entirely catastrophic.
The end of the Seven Kingdoms, right. It's just an invading force. It's not. So he must be talking about the White Walkers, of course, and then that fits with his surmise that the old powers are awaking.
Right. Yes. So he seems very fixated on the fact that they were doing a lot of digging, like you said in the summary, I think, excavation when they were in the Frostfang. So he's clearly under the impression that Mance is searching for something. So he must feel that whatever they're searching for could possibly allow the others past the wall. Like we take what you were just saying and take it to the next step. That's got to be his concern. Whatever they were doing in the Frostfangs, Qhorin has a concern that it's going to somehow allow the others to get past the wall.
We'll be right back.
Hello, friends. Are you ready to make some unforgettable memories? Well, if so, consider the Marriott Bonvoy program. Discover the perfect destination for your summer getaway and unlock exclusive deals on luxurious accommodations. With our affiliate partnership, you'll enjoy unbeatable savings and a seamless booking experience. Don't let summer slip away. Visit Marriott Bonvoy today and make this vacation season one for the books. Use our Ghosts of Harrenhal affiliate page to check it all out and buy Bonvoy points or give some as a gift. The link to our page is in the show notes.
Goes again one more time to the best way to keep that wall intact is to invite those people south of the wall for the winter.
Yes. We have mentioned that a few times, right? Yeah.
We've heard several times over the course of the book that the coming of the dragons has sort of reinvigorated magic. But this chapter reminded me of or sort of like suggested an alternative hypothesis to me. What was the first magical creature to appear in these books? It was the White Walkers.
Yeah, it was in the prologue of
in
the
the
Game of Thrones.
Way back. Long before the dragons. Was it that triggered the reinvigoration of magic? In fact, the coming of the others is what caused the eggs to hatch.
Uh-huh. Right, yes, because we had discussed, I think when the eggs hatched, you had thought about the idea that the eggs hatched because the realm is in need of...
I did say that.
Of their help, of their presence. But maybe you take it to even a step further back, maybe the others, the presence of the others has sparked a level of magic that has caused the eggs to hatch. And so that the dragons are getting credit for magic increasing, when really it could be even one step further back. It's the others which are giving the dragons life, which, is looking like it's the dragons causing the magic to increase. I see what you're saying. I like it.
We've also said before that magic comes with a cost, and maybe sort of the evilness of the others has to be balanced with the bolstering of magic on the other side. I mean, I'm not sure dragons are necessarily a force for good. I suppose it depends who uses them.
Right. Same with wildfire. That seems to be increasing as well.
Good point, yes. Yeah.
And wildfire might be useful against White Walkers and
very true.
Whites.
That's like ice and fire type thing.
Right. Yes.
See what we did there. So they emerge from the cave through the mountain. The eagle is waiting there to greet them.
Yeah, we discover at the end of the chapter why this eagle is so damn clever. How it's been following them, and it even followed them through a mountain and managed to figure out exactly where they were going to be on the other side. It's because, according to Ygritte anyway, the bird has a man's spirit or presence in it in some way, that the bird was part of a warg duo with a man that Jon killed. So there's more going on there. It's just not some ordinary bird, because you can't imagine, I'm sure eagles are very smart birds, but you can't imagine that a bird could work out that these men went into this mountain. I know I'm going to go to the other side of the mountain, and they're going to come out right at that cave entrance there. So it did seem like there was something more going on here.
Yeah. So when they do come out the other side, the bird is there waiting for them, and that's the second time Qhorin checks with Jon that his sword is sharp. He knows that this is the end of the road for at least himself.
Yep. This is the
end. Wildlings outnumber them 14-2, including. Does that include the dogs? No, there were 14 people.
It's 14-2 people, and then 8-1 dogs to wolf.
Yeah. Jon and Qhorin have the upper ground. They've got the back to the cave wall. Although, of course, the wildlings could send people through the tunnel to creep.
True.
It's not. It's overwhelming odds, but not hugely overwhelming.
Exactly. Yes. So I was wondering, what if the odds were 14-5? What if all of Qhorin's men were present and accounted for? That's much better odds, and the Brothers of the Night's Watch have better weapons and better training. And now, of course, we're not sure how many people Squire Dalbridge and Ebben took out before this 14 made it them. Maybe there was 25, and they, they took out a good deal of them. But it's also mentioned in the description that the wildlings would need to come up to the cave 2 at a time because it's so narrow. So if it was 14-5, I think it might. And now, of course, they have archers, more archers than the Brothers of the Night's Watch do. But they do have Squire Dalbridge, who's a very good shot. So.
Yeah, but I was going to say that archery is the thing that will make those numbers tell. I think if they just surround them and start firing arrows at them, that's gonna whittle them down. It'll be 14-2 pretty soon.
Right, whichever two will stay the deepest in the cave.
Right. So the wildlings are led by Rattleshirt. We'd heard of him before. When Qhorin arrived at the Fist of the First Men, he and Mormont were discussing dangerous wildlings, and they mentioned Rattleshirt. But when he's given the opportunity to fight Qhorin mano a mano, he does not take it.
He does not. He doesn't want any part of that.
It's 14-2. Why risk your neck, really?
Right, yeah. There's no need. No need, I guess.
If there were 14 Night's Watch and 2 wildlings, and Rattleshirt said, "Well, come on, fight me man to man, Qhorin Halfhand," he'd be a fool to say yes,
Good point. That's, I guess, what Rattleshirt was thinking, because he rejected he said feather them. shoot him with an arrow. Right. And that's when Jon yields, and Qhorin says, "They told me bastard blood was craven." And that line, there's kind of more possibly than meets the eye there. First of all, it works on two levels. It sells the legitimacy of Jon yielding, that Qhorin is, surprised by this and angry by this. But it also possibly motivates Jon for what comes next, because Jon knew he was going to have to yield. He was not expecting to have to kill Qhorin. So, saying bastard blood is craven, the description says that Jon's face reddens when he hears that.
Yes.
Possibly it's embarrassing to him that he, first of all, is forced to act cowardly here, and now Qhorin is calling him a coward, blood craven in front of everybody. So maybe it just gives him enough of a spark to be able to fight Qhorin when he needs to fight him here.
And if that wasn't enough, Qhorin attacking him probably took him the rest of the way.
Yes. Basically just defending his own life at that point. Right. Probably does the trick as well.
So Ygritte tells the other wildlings that he's got Eddard Stark's blood. You make a good point here in the notes that that might not mean much to the wildlings, but being Benjen Stark's nephew might be more interesting to them.
Right.
Although, we don't know how famous Benjen is north of the Wall. Known, perhaps.
When Osha and Stig and all those guys were caught by Bran and Robb and Theon, when they were thinking of taking Bran hostage, I think it was Osha said, imagine Mance's reaction when we bring Benjen Stark's nephew to him. So he's got, he is first ranger of the Night's Watch. I'm sure he's got some reputation out there, which might work against Ygritte's claim. Maybe that's why she didn't use him, because maybe Benjen has, he's a real thorn in the side of these people, and they would be like, well, kill him. He's got Benjen Stark's blood.
We'll be right back.
This episode is sponsored by Audible. To get a free audiobook, or 2 if you're an Amazon Prime member, go to our exclusive URL, audibletrial.com/ghostsharrenhal. You can find the link in our show notes.
So the wildlings know that Jon's a warg, even if Jon is not quite sure of that fact himself yet. But he's not the only warg present. The eagle is at least half of a double act that used to be a warg.
Right. Yeah, and Jon, when they were early in the chapter, when they were on horseback, Jon had the thought that Ghost isn't always around, but even when they're apart, Jon can sense his nearness. And so, of course, we know he dreamed through Ghost's eyes when he saw Mance's force in the Frostfang. So there's certainly a lot of evidence to support that there might be a warg situation between Jon and Ghost.
Right. But Qhorin seems aware, because he's listed wargs as one of the challenges that Mormont's going to face.
Yeah.
And I think Rattleshirt seems to want to use the fact that he's a warg against bringing Jon into their party, but Ygritte's like, we're not afraid of wargs, we use them,
Right. You got an eagle on your shoulder there,
right?
Yeah, and that's a very different reaction than what Jojen told Bran the reaction would be south of the Wall. He said, people are going to fear you, they might hate you, this very negative reaction to him being a warg. So, this is kind of the opposite here. They seem to embrace and appreciate wargs, possibly.
Yeah. I question Ygritte's motives here a little bit. She's probably grateful for not being dead. And she, that's because of Jon.
Right.
But she's a wildling. You don't expect them to have a lot of time for sentiment or kindness. So I wonder if she's falling for him a little bit, just a teeny bit.
Oh, possibly. He's got those dreamy brown eyes.
Exactly.
And, yeah, that very well could be, or maybe she's just trying to tit for tat. You saved me once, I'll save you once. It's possible.
Jon also notices that the wildlings really don't respect the leadership. I mean, obviously Rattleshirt is in charge here, but he's completely overruled by the rest of the party.
Yes, very much so.
Just dispatch Jon, but
yeah, he seems to think he's in charge anyway, but
yeah.
he really wants to just have Jon killed because he says the Black Crow is a tricksy bird and he doesn't want any part of them. But the others are like, I mean, the others with the lowercase o, the other wildlings, are like, no, hey, let's give him a shot here, and then they decide to keep him around. So.
And so Jon dispatches Qhorin Halfhand with the help of Ghost. It would not have happened any other way.
No, I'm not sure he was going to lose that fight.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Qhorin was sort of like basting his leg with the hard tack of horse meat beforehand just to get the Ghost to bite him.
He was going to have to trip or something.
Right. But Jon does complete the task. And then he asks Ygritte if they're going to go now to where Mance's army is. And she says, no, they're not there anymore. They're heading down the Milkwater in the direction of the wall. Mm-hmm. Immediately blabbing all the secret plans to the newly minted traitor to the Night's Watch.
He's like, quick. I already got half the info that I needed.
Exactly.
This should be a breeze. I'll be out of here in no time. Yeah, but, Qhorin and Mormont put a plan in place for this. They thought this whole army could come moving out of the Frostfangs at any moment. So that's why the vast majority of the ranging party stayed at the Fist of the First Men to defend the wall against Mance's force if it should have moved on the
right
on the wall.
So perhaps they can tell Mormont what's going on when they get there,
Right, yeah. Here's what we've been up to.
We've got a huge army, and we're marching on the wall.
And, so Ygritte says that they're marching down the Milkwater, and Thorin Smallwood's group, remember there was 3 groups of 5 that were sent out exploring. Thorin Smallwood's group was the one that was sent to probe up the Milkwater, so they might already have seen this huge army coming and reported back, or possibly even been captured by the army if they weren't quite so sneaky.
Yep. Do you have some background for us?
I got a little bit of background. There's 2 ways I could have gone here. I thought about talking about the other Qhorin, the Ironborn Qhorin, or
you gave us a summary of that.
Right, a little bit, Ironborn King. So instead I focused on wargs, and so it seems like the man Jon killed when he took Ygritte captive was a warg, based on the eagle's uncanny ability to work out situations, and Ygritte saying that the bird hates Jon because he was a man before Jon killed him, which all that together pretty much leads you to believe there's a very good chance that he was a warg. So I thought I'd talk about a famous warg that the Stark family had to deal with in the past. So a long time ago, before the coming of the Andals, members of House Stark warred with a warg by the name of Gavin Greywolf. It was a brutal and bloody battle, and eventually the Kings of Winter defeated Gavin. But by the end of the fighting, the Starks had not just killed Gavin Greywolf, but also all of his kin. The war is known as the War of the Wolves for obvious reasons. And the war is just an example of the type of fighting House Stark had to do in order to secure their reign over the North. And
you implied it several times, but he was a human wolf warg, right?
I would think so, based on his name.
Just check it.
I bet he might be grey, too.
Yeah. So comparison with the television show, this is all done so much better in the book. This is the time when you really want to be reading the book, not watching the TV show. Because in the TV show, Qhorin and Jon are both captured by this party of wildlings. And they're sort of like they're roped together and being taken back to Mance. Qhorin then, without alerting Jon to the fact he wants him to yield, picks a fight with Jon. And
just
Jon
out
is
of the
entirely
blue.
unwitting of this. And so they get into a fight, and the outcome is the same. Jon ultimately wins it, but he's completely befuddled by what's happened, and that expression kind of undermines the fact that he's supposed to be treasonous towards the Night's Watch. Qhorin says a few things along the way to sort of clue them in. Are you listening, wildlings? He's a traitor, but Jon the whole time is like, what? What are you talking about?
Why are you saying these things about me?
Stop fighting me! So Ygritte does speak up for Jon, and when he kills Qhorin, Rattleshirt cuts the rope that binds his hands, and at that point they look over a ridge and they see the full extent of the wildling army, and it's vast. It's so vast that you can't actually tell what it is. It just sort of looks like speckles on the ground, but it's enormous.
Okay. This right here, this comparison with the TV show, I don't want to give away too much about our conversation with Ilio and Linda, but it reminds me of what they were saying about needless changes between the TV show and the book.
Yeah. I mean, the TV show got to that point quicker, but I definitely think the TV show missed some important aspects of this. There were aspects of this plan. I think Qhorin could have been more upfront with Jon than he was.
Yeah, it wouldn't have taken too much screen time to just say, you're going to have to yield, I command you to do it.
Right, exactly.
Ahead of time.
Right, exactly. All right, we're at Pedantry Corner. To be honest, as we've gone through the discussion, I'm backing off the big piece of pedantry that I was going to complain about, but Ygritte does say, the bird hates you, Jon Snow, and well he might. He was a man before you killed him. But it's that last bit, I'm like, what the heck is she talking about? He wasn't a man, he's an eagle. He's always been an
bird
eagle.
Man.
Exactly. So I was like, is she talking about reincarnation? She killed a guy who came back as an eagle? But you've kind of convinced me. That in actual fact, the eagle bears a grudge because he used to be, there was a bond with his human, and the human was killed by Jon, so he hates Jon. Okay. I still don't think he was a man makes sense.
the terminology was poor. Communication was poor by Ygritte.
That's what I think. And then the other one is right at the beginning of the chapter, or in fact actually before the chapter begins, because they left Squire Dalbridge behind to slow down the wildling pursuers. And he did what he could, but ultimately he died. And he signalled his death by blowing his horn so that the rest of the Night's Watch knew that his time had come. So his watch was ended. I don't know about you, but the day when I die, if I die with people fighting me, I don't think I'm going to be thinking about blowing a horn to alert other people. I'm going to be too busy going, stop. But then I thought a little bit more about it, and actually blowing my own horn may be the way that I go, because that's kind of the thing I do all the time anyway. Yeah, so it's not that's not a big one, but it just felt like
you believed it was Squire Dalbridge that blew the horn, not the wildlings blowing the horn saying that guy's dead.
Oh, I hadn't thought of that.
The only reason I thought that might have been the way it went is because the description kept saying afterward they'd blow a war horn and it kept getting closer and closer.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Because as I read it, it felt like Dalbridge was like announcing to them, I'm dead! It's like, what a weird thing to do.
You better hurry up, pick up your pace.
But maybe, isn't it 2 blasts for the wildlings? Maybe he was halfway through a 2 blasts. There are wildlings coming! He was halfway through it when they got him. So now they think it's, hey, some members of the Night's Watch are coming down. Let's wait for them.
We're saved.
That is a terrible code, just FYI.
Yeah, it is.
News and notes.
News and notes. Well, we spoiled the first bit of news and notes because we were just too excited. We couldn't really contain ourselves and wait until news and notes. But yes, we were. I was going to mention our just fantastic conversation with Ilio and Linda. And
can I interject? They were so charming and gracious and kind to do it. I mean, they were just...
yeah.
They just gave a ton of their time, and they were really, really nice. So thank you a million times. And I hope you all enjoy it as much as we did, because it was an absolute thrill to talk to them.
It really was. I had so much fun. I could have gone another hour just talking, just chatting about A Song of Ice and Fire and everything else. We almost got all of our listeners' questions asked. There was a few we had to cut for time because, as you say, while we were talking to them, we can't keep them on here forever. So but we got the vast majority of your questions asked and answered.
Some of them we dropped because they'd already kind of been answered as well. There was some of that going on. So, but we definitely tried to represent the listeners' questions.
And don't forget that the Buy Me a Coffee, Royal Kingsguard, and Lord's Paramount tiers will get that episode the week after we finish A Clash of Kings Brand 7, which is next week's episode. So you'll get it in 2 weeks from now. And everyone else will get it the following week. Right. It'll be open to everyone then. So,
and that will help bridge the gap as we take a couple of weeks off between Clash of Kings and what's the next one called?
A Storm of Swords, which is 81 chapters long. So
81.
We might need to pace ourselves a little bit in that one as well, so we don't burn out.
So let's conclude. Jon's story's taken a bit of a turn, not quite where we expected this to go, but my question is he too much of a Stark to pull off this ruse? Because this needs, and I've said the word ruse intentionally, this needs a bit of Boltonness, I feel.
It does, yeah. Starks are not known for their sneaky underhandedness. So yeah, that's a very good question.
He's definitely got a friend in Ygritte, or at least, like you said, she now feels she's paid off her debt to him. But he's definitely got a skeptic in Rattleshirt. He does not necessarily think that he's a true traitor.
Yes. Of course, Rattleshirt doesn't seem to have the authority that most leaders south of the Wall have with their people. So might not matter much, I guess.
He's just a middle manager, Mance is in charge and nobody listens to him anymore.
Right.
I do think that Jon might have to cope with the guilt of Qhorin's death. He'll have to carry that with him. I mean, that's, it's not nothing to kill anyone, presumably. Not unlike myself, but in particular, someone that you've come to esteem and you know that your colleagues all esteemed hugely, this guy.
Yes.
And that this guy's laid down his life so that you can sort of further the ends of the Night's Watch. Well, that's a lot to carry. It's a lot to own.
I'm sure it was very, it happened in the spur of the moment. Maybe that's why Qhorin attacked him so hard, so that Jon would have to react quickly and not really put a lot of thought into it, because I'm sure that will weigh on him for a long time and would have been very difficult to do.
Yeah, but nothing could bring home the importance of the mission more than that,
Oh, yes, right, absolutely. And his loss, Qhorin's loss, will be a major blow to the Night's Watch. He was a dedicated lifer in the Night's Watch, strong leader, skilled ranger, excellent fighter. It's the kind of man that the Night's Watch can ill afford to lose, especially at the moment.
Yeah.
And it's a for us, the reader, it's the loss of another great minor character. The last few chapters we've been hit hard. We lost Sir Roderick. We lost, it looks like we're going to lose Maester Luwin. We didn't see that he was officially dead, but it doesn't look good for him. And now we've lost Qhorin Halfhand. So it's a tough stretch.
Yes. Elio said something sobering to me about what's coming in the rest of the books. He and this is not a spoiler, I don't think. He said he thinks the story's got as wide as it's going to get, and from now on it's going to narrow back down again. He said, and the only way for that to happen is for heads to roll. It's like, oh no, we're going to lose people. So Stonesnake is at large. Maybe he'll make it back to inform Mormont of what's been seen. But here's an interesting question. What if he gets caught? What will Jon say? What will Stonesnake say?
Yeah. How's Jon going to explain why he's walking around with the wildlings and Qhorin's not there? And then, someone mentions, oh yeah, Jon is a traitor. He killed Qhorin Halfhand.
But the one thing is, actually, it didn't seem like they were planning to take prisoners. So they didn't take prisoners with Ebben. Nope. So maybe that won't happen anyway. They'll just kill Stonesnake and be done with it, and it won't matter.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. That Mormont and his rangers are about to get some company, it seems like.
Yes, they do have that high ground represented by the Fist of the First Men, but as we remembered at the time, not a lot of escape options there and no water source.
Right. So it's good for the strategic vantage point of the higher ground, but otherwise they're exposed up there. They could be surrounded because it's just a large hill, and they can't sustain a siege up there. So, but why is Mance and his force coming down out of the mountains now? Did they find what they were looking for with all the digging, or did it just get really cold and just wanted to warm up a little bit?
Either they found it or they got fed up of looking for it. That seems to be the two things, So.
Yes, right.
And if it is some kind of key through the wall, then this could be bad news. I mean, like you said, if this army is as vast as the TV show made it seem, you could surround the Fist of the First Men with a tiny portion of it and march off to the wall and unlock that gate,
Right. Yeah. Maybe we'll find out in Storm of Swords.
Yes, hopefully. So, there are 3 ways that you could help us. First and foremost, you can go out and leave us a positive review. There is no better advertising. Secondly, you can buy some merchandise at ghostsofharrenhal.threadless.com, or you can buy us a cup of Arbor Gold at buymeacoffee.com/ghostsharrenhal. Big thank you to those who've already become... you're going to have to remind me of the levels.
Knights of the Realm.
Knight
of the Realm, singular. Knight of the Realm, Lord Paramount, and then our Royal Kingsguard tier.
Who are
Kickstarter
their grandfathered in, right? Yes.
And of course, you could if you don't want to become a sustainer, you could always just buy us a cup of Arbor Gold if you like what we're doing.
Yeah.
And of course, you can always reach us at ghosts.harrenhal@gmail.com. You can follow us on Twitter at @ghostharrenhal. We're on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and of course, Discord.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.